On a stormy Valentine's morning in the year 2000, a 9-year-old girl vanished without a trace. No signs of forced entry, no screaming, no struggle, just a packed school backpack and a series of haunting clues that would puzzle investigators for decades. This is the chilling case of Asha Degree, an all-American child from North Carolina who walked out of her home in the dead of night and into a mystery that has never been solved. Shelby, North Carolina, population just under 20,000. A tight-knit town where everyone knows your name and front doors were still left unlocked. Here lived the Degree family, Harold and Aquila, hard-working parents who believed in structure, faith, and education. The kind of couple who were always present, always involved. By all accounts, they were doing everything right. Their daughter, Asha Degree, was a quiet storm of potential. At 9 years old, she was the kind of child most parents dream of. Shy, obedient, polite. She loved to read. She loved to laugh. She was devoted to her family and close to her older brother, O'Brien. The two even shared a bedroom. He was her protector, and she was his shadow. Asha was a straight-A student at Falston Elementary School and a rising star on the basketball court. Though small for her age, she had grit. Coaches described her as determined and focused. She practiced every afternoon, but her greatest quality, some say, was her innocence. Asha was deeply afraid of the dark. She wouldn't even go to the bathroom alone at night. She didn't stray far from home or far from the people she loved. So when she vanished, without a sound, without a struggle, her family was stunned. How could a child so grounded, so careful, so afraid, simply walk out the door? To understand the horror of what happened, we first have to understand what was lost. A child at the cusp of everything. A girl whose name would soon be whispered across the country, not as a rising student, but as a missing person. Sunday, February 13th, 2000, the night before Valentine's Day. In many homes, it was a quiet evening. Families were watching TV, children were sorting school valentines, and in the small brick house on Oakcrest Drive, Asha Degree was preparing for bed. Nothing about that day had been unusual, at least not at first glance. Asha had gone to church that morning as she always did. After lunch, she visited her aunt's house with her mother and brother. By the evening, she was home, had done her homework, and reportedly laughed while watching TV with her family. But the weather was beginning to turn. By nightfall, a cold rain fell over Shelby. Winds picked up. At around 9 p.m., the power went out temporarily, a lightning strike somewhere nearby. The house fell briefly into darkness. But to the Degrees, this was just a passing storm. They lit a few candles. Asha and O'Brien climbed into bed, fully clothed as their parents expected another cold front to move in. By midnight, the power had returned. Harold, who worked the second shift at a local company, got home a little after midnight. He peeked in on the children. Both were fast asleep. But something began to shift after that moment. At around 2:30 a.m., O'Brien stirred and noticed Asha's bed creak. He assumed she had rolled over. Nothing unusual. But sometime in the hour that followed, Asha got up. She opened her dresser. She quietly packed a small backpack, and then, without alerting anyone, she slipped out of the house and vanished into the storm. She took her book bag, her house key, and a few personal items, but she left behind her wallet, her favorite basketball uniform, her stuffed animals, her family. It was just after 3 a.m. The rain was coming down hard, temperatures were dropping, and 9-year-old Asha Degree was out there, walking into the unknown. Highway 18 cuts through the countryside just outside Shelby, North Carolina. A quiet 2-lane road, lined by pine trees and shadows, not the kind of place you'd expect to see a child alone before sunrise. But in the early hours of February 14th, 2000, two separate drivers would make chilling 911 calls, each describing a surreal and terrifying sight: a small girl walking alone in the rain. The first driver, a trucker, saw her at around 3:30 a.m. She appeared to be carrying something on her back. He slowed, startled, but the girl didn't acknowledge him. She kept walking, head down, purposeful, silent. A second motorist, minutes later, was so disturbed by what he saw, He turned his car around to approach her. When he rolled down his window and called out, the girl suddenly bolted, darting off the highway and into the woods. Then nothing, no footprints, no cries for help, no trace, just the rain and a lingering, haunting silence. It wasn't until later that day, when the Degree family reported Asha missing, that these witnesses came forward. Their descriptions were consistent. The timing lined up. The girl they saw was almost certainly Asha. That meant Asha had walked more than a mile in the dead of night, through rain, wind, and pitch-black roads. But why? And more importantly, where was she going? Authorities would soon learn that Asha didn't just vanish from her home. She was seen, she was moving, and at some point, she was running from something, or someone. By dawn on Valentine's Day 2000, the Degree family's lives had changed forever. At 6:30 a.m., Aquila went to wake her children. O'Brien was still asleep, but Asha's bed was empty. No coat, no shoes, no backpack, just silence. Aquila thought maybe Asha had gone outside to play. Maybe she was hiding. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. By 6:45 a.m., the Degree family reported Asha missing, and Shelby police began a search that would become one of the most exhaustive child investigations in North Carolina history. Search crews combed the surrounding area, foot by foot, tree by tree. Over 9,000 man-hours were logged in just the first few days. Police dogs traced Asha's scent down the road, all the way to Highway 18, and then, just like that, it vanished. Investigators were left with more questions than answers. There was no blood, no signs of struggle, no indication she had been forced out of the home. It was as if Asha had simply disappeared into the mist. Then a break. 2 days after her disappearance, searchers found items belonging to Asha in an abandoned shed near the sighting location. Among the debris, a candy wrapper, a pencil, a green marker, and one of Asha's hair bows. The shed was old, remote, and nearly hidden from the road. Whoever brought her there knew this place and wanted her to remain unseen. Tips began pouring in. Local police, the North Carolina SBI, and the FBI all joined forces. They followed every lead, every phone call, every rumor, but nothing concrete emerged. The community rallied. Posters of Asha's smiling face were plastered across town. Her school organized prayer circles. Volunteers walked for miles. But with each passing hour, hope was slipping. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Still, no Asha, no suspects, no answers, only a silence that grew heavier with time. It had been over 18 months since Asha Degree disappeared. The case had gone cold. No new leads, no confirmed sightings, just a wall of silence, and a family still waiting for answers. Then, on August 3, 2001, a startling discovery shocked investigators and reignited one of North Carolina's most haunting mysteries. A crew digging off the highway unearthed a black plastic garbage bag. Inside it was something that should never have been there. A backpack. A child's backpack. When investigators opened the bag, their worst fears were confirmed. It belonged to Asha Degree. Her name was still written on the inside flap. But what lay inside only deepened the mystery. Some of the items belonged to her, school supplies, a few clothes, but other objects didn't make sense. Among them, a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, not hers, a copy of McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss, checked out from Asha's school library. The book was real. Its checkout record traced back to Falston Elementary, but how did it end up 26 miles away, in a bag buried in plastic? And why would someone bury it so deliberately, wrapped, hidden, concealed? The location raised even more disturbing questions. Asha had never been to Morganton. She had no relatives there. She couldn't have walked there on foot, which meant one thing: someone took her there. Forensic testing was performed on the backpack and its contents, but any DNA, fingerprints, or fibers, if found, have never been publicly disclosed. To the Degree family, the discovery was devastating and maddening. A piece of their daughter had been found, but not their daughter. The backpack was evidence that Asha had been taken, that someone had handled her belongings, that someone had gone to great lengths to hide them. But if that backpack held clues to who took Asha, they were locked tight and buried, along with the truth. More than 2 decades have passed since Asha Degree vanished. No suspects, no arrests, only a list of possibilities, each one darker than the last. Asha wasn't a troubled child. She wasn't rebellious. She wasn't running away from anything. At least, not that anyone knew. So what could have made her leave in the middle of a stormy night? Some theorize she ran away. Maybe she was upset over fouling out of her basketball game 2 days earlier. Maybe she was trying to prove something to herself or to someone else. But that theory doesn't hold up. Asha had no history of running away. She was deeply afraid of the dark. She had no money, no plan, no destination. And if she was simply running away, why bring a book she never checked out, or a shirt that wasn't hers? Others believe Asha was lured out, coaxed by someone she trusted, a predator who gained her confidence slowly through school, church, or her basketball games. Perhaps this person promised her something, an adventure, a gift, a secret mission, something that made a 9-year-old overcome her fears and walk out into the storm. Was it someone she knew, a family friend, a coach, someone hiding in plain sight? Many who know the case believe this is the most likely scenario. Asha was not abducted from her home, she was led out. In 2004, a new lead surfaced. A tipster claimed they saw Asha enter the back seat of a dark green car, possibly a 1970s Lincoln Continental or Ford Thunderbird, along Highway 18. It was the first suggestion that Asha may not have just vanished into the woods, but into someone's vehicle. The description was vague. No license plate, no confirmed driver. The tip, like so many others, faded without resolution. Some believe Asha may have encountered a stranger after she left voluntarily or after she was led to a location, someone who saw an opportunity and took her. The buried backpack, the out-of-place t-shirt, the school library book she never checked out. Each detail suggests planning, deliberate concealment, a predator who wanted her to vanish without a trace. But if that's true, why leave her belongings buried in plastic? Why not destroy them? A few online sleuths have speculated something more sinister, that someone close to the family or close to the investigation may know more than they've said. But there is no public evidence supporting this, no criminal records, no behavior suggesting harm. Still, the lack of resolution has led many to question everything. Over 25 years of whispers, theories, and what-ifs, and yet one truth remains, and they've kept that secret for a very long time. Every year, on the anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the Degree family leads a march down Highway 18, the same stretch of road where she was last seen, still wet with memory. They call it the Walk for Asha, and they've done it for over 2 decades. It's a way to keep her name alive, to remind the world that someone out there still knows something, and to send a message: we haven't given up. If Asha Degree is still alive today, she would be in her early 30s, the same age as her older brother, O'Brien, a generation lost, a future paused in time. That hope is not blind, it's grounded in love, and in the fact that new leads have continued to surface. In 2015, the FBI and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation reopened the case. New technology, new interviews, new eyes on old evidence. Then in 2020, authorities revealed something new. They now strongly believe foul play was involved in Asha's disappearance. New leads have emerged, though officials won't release the full details. But we know this: they've identified persons of interest, and they've received credible tips from people claiming to know more. For Harold and Aquila, the pain never goes away. They never moved, never changed the phone number. They've kept Asha's bedroom intact, waiting, just in case she comes home. They've never given up on their daughter, and they never will. Because to them, and to anyone who's ever loved someone gone missing, hope is not a fantasy, it's fuel. If you know anything, no matter how small, if you remember something strange from February 2000, if you've heard someone whisper about it in the dark, Asha deserves answers, and her family deserves peace, because the truth is out there, and someone is still holding it. If you're intrigued by unsolved mysteries and chilling cases, check out my playlist, True Crime Murders and Disappearances. for more unsolved cases.